Hello everybody and welcome on to a brand new video today where, well, see the title, I'm tackling the big issue of why, so far at least, Doctor Who Series 11 just hasn't done it for me. So yes, we're 8 episodes into Series 11, just 2 more to go plus the New Year's Day special, and I think I share an opinion that I think a lot of fans have been sharing so far, that it's been good, but it's just not been that great. It's just not been inspiring. It's not been fantastic. There's not been any classic episodes. There's not been an amazing story running through this series. It just feels like every week is a filler episode and there's nothing really to look forward to. There's nothing to draw you in each week, and that it's just not sort of that exciting. And I think there are just some fundamental problems with this series so far. So yes, going into this series, we knew from Chris Chibnall, the new writer for Doctor Who, who had started for Series 11, having done 4 or 5 not particularly fantastic, but also not terrible episodes of Doctor Who in the past. And we thought, he's done Broadchurch since then, he's obviously written a lot of Torchwood, so he's got quite an accomplished writer, and we thought he's going to do a great job with the show. Moffat's been around for years, it was time for a change, happy days, what's he going to bring to the show? And unfortunately, he hasn't exactly brought inspiring, fantastic and entertaining TV to Doctor Who. He's kind of brought a bit of uninspiration and boredom sometimes. So yes, we knew going into this series that Chris Chibnall was not going to have a story arc. He said pre-series that it's going to be 10 individual episodes with no story arc, nothing linking the series, and that's just how it would be. So you can pick up and sort of wherever you want and go in, dip out, anything like that. And of course, some of us were a little bit disappointed, a little bit worried, but had thought, oh, well, he's probably at least somewhat lying and there'll be some sort of plot line to lead us through the series. But so far, 8 episodes in, there's nothing, absolutely nothing. We thought there were a couple of cliffhangers at the start of the series, but they were very much just linking one story into the next rather than having any plot line that's going to mean anything for later in the series. And it just feels like that's something that's fundamental in television in 2018, is to have a story that keeps you coming back every single week. Some sort of plot point that's just going to make you tune in each week and trying to find out a little bit more about this thing, what is going on, what's happening. And there's just none of that in this series, and I just think that it's kind of therefore not sort of encouraging people, enticing people to tune in every single week. They can just dip in, dip out whenever they like. Other than the first 2 episodes, you could watch this series in whatever order you wanted. It literally would make no difference whatsoever. They all just happen. So I could go and watch episode 2, then watch episode 8, then watch 6, then 4, 5, whatever order I liked, and it would make no difference. And I think that is disappointing. And I think that it was something that we all thought Chris would do more of rather than less of, given how sort of arc-heavy shows he's written, like Broadchurch. And there's a pretty heavy arc in a lot of Torchwood as well. And so it seemed all the signs were there that he'd go down that route, and he's just gone the complete opposite. Now, we don't really know the reason quite why for this at the moment. It seems like maybe he's trying to sort of hark back to the beginning of the show back in the early 1960s with the 3 companions having, these sort of lots of individual stories, sort of just the style of it, having more historical stories that all sort of harks back to the 1960s. But we're in 2018, we're not in 1963, and it feels like you shouldn't be trying to reinvent 1963 in 2018. You should be doing stories and shows that fit for the current sort of television audience and the style of TV nowadays. Of course, some people will say that Doctor Who should be different to other TV, and it's good that it's doing something different by just having individual stories. And I do understand that line, that line of argument. And for some people, that's fair enough. That's absolutely fine. I understand that. But for me, it just doesn't do it as a story. Like, one of my favourite series of Doctor Who is Series 5 because of that sort of storyline of the crack in time running throughout the series. And then how that just sort of continued even in other aspects through sort of later series, and that element of sort of having a big arc with something building to a big finale, a big conclusion, that there's none of in this episode. It just sort of almost feels like what right now I don't know what there is to look forward to about the finale of this series. Like, it just feels like it's going to be another episode and then the series is just going to be over. That nothing's going to happen. Because, spoiler alert, that having seen the pictures for the New Year's Day special, it turns out that nobody's going to die at the end of the series. They are all going to survive episode 10 and they'll all be happy days going into the New Year's Day special, because there's a picture of all 4 of the main cast in costume in the New Year's Day special. So there's not even any threat, because everybody thought Graham's going to die. Of course he's going to die at the end of the series. It's all teed up, but it's not going to happen. So we know no one's going to die. There's no big story to be resolved at the end of the series, so what is there to look forward to in the big finale? Nothing. And to be honest, I can't really put that at anybody's door other than Chris Chibnall, because he's the guy who's come in to lead this show, run this show, give his vision, put his vision into Doctor Who. He's the lead writer. He makes all the executive decisions about the show. He cast a female Doctor, which is a good decision. Absolutely, I'm not saying anything against that. That was fantastic. That was the best thing he's done for Doctor Who, I think, is giving a female Doctor. But in terms of the type of Doctor Who that he wants to write, it's just not doing it. And I think it shows in fan opinion as well, because the best episodes of this series have all been the ones not written by Chris Chibnall. Like, he's written 4 and co-written 1, and the 3 not written by him are generally the top 3 ranked episodes of this series, and the one co-written by him and somebody else is number 4, and then his 4 episodes are at the bottom. And I think that says everything you need to know about that maybe Chris Chibnall just doesn't write good Doctor Who. Does he just not quite get it? I don't really know. It's hard to say. And I hate to slate Doctor Who. I'm really not a fan of being really negative about the show, because I always try to be as positive as possible, more positive than probably a lot of YouTubers nowadays, because it's popular to slate the show and say that it's terrible. And I hate doing it, but I just feel like at this point I'm not, like, it's Tuesday today and I'm not thinking, I can't wait for Sunday to watch Doctor Who. I'm just thinking, Doctor Who's on Sunday, I'll watch it. But, oh well, whatever, not too fussed. And that is disappointing. That's not what I was expecting to feel for this series. And I think that is down to just the sort of creative decisions of this series. And it really will be interesting to see how much longer does this carry on for. Are we going to have another series with no arc? Is Chris Chibnall going to go off the series 12? Is Jodie Whittaker going to leave off the series 12? Of course, the rumours are there at the moment that they're off in a hurry. I mean, personally, not convinced. I feel like Chris will do 3 series and then be gone, as will Jodie, would be my sort of gut feeling at the moment. His 5-year plan and all that malarkey. Obviously, when the 5-year plan started is debatable. If it was 2015, which is when he sort of agreed to do the job, that would take us through to 2020, which would be 3 series in 3 years, which would be fantastic. Because, of course, it does seem almost certain we are getting a series 12 in 2019, which is fantastic for the show. And I'm really pleased that Chris is at least managing to do that, even if rumours are that he's been struggling behind the scenes with the sort of heavy workload of producing Doctor Who, and is a lot more work than he thought it would be, and therefore the rumours are he's trying to cut it down to only 5 or 6 episodes because he can't manage to make a full series of Doctor Who in a year, which would be disappointing, and I really think would be a sign that maybe he isn't the right person to run this show. But I think as much as I am disappointed with this series, I do think that Chris Chibnall needs to sort of improve, take a step back, look at fan opinion rather than ignore it, and sort of understand that maybe this type of Doctor Who isn't Doctor Who that works in 2018. That we are very much looking for a more serialised, more arc-heavy type of Doctor Who, this sort of at this stage of the show's history, and it feels like Chris has just done the opposite, and ultimately it's not really working. So yes, although I am disappointed with Series 11, I'm not going to sort of completely write off Chris Chibnall as a writer, and say that therefore he's got to be sacked from the show after this series, that he's a completely terrible writer and is never going to write anything good for Doctor Who, because I think that this was a big new step for Doctor Who. It's a completely new production team, new Doctor, new companions, new writer. It very much is the big start of a new era of Doctor Who. Of course, Stephen Moffat absolutely nailed it for Series 5, there's no denying that. But clearly that's not an easy thing to manage, and I don't think Chris has quite imagined it in this series. But I'm still optimistic that he can for Series 12. I think if he takes on the feedback of audiences, and hopefully some sort of professionals that are working around him as well, of what has and hasn't worked in this sort of series as a whole, that then they can work on creating a much sort of more tightly knit, I think, series, a more consistent series with more highlights and more of an arc as well. I think if you put all those aspects together, Series 12 can be fantastic, because I think generally the TARDIS team and the Doctor does work. Maybe they need to lose one of the 3 companions, because I just feel like at least one of them is underserved every single week, because there is too many people to give sufficient dialogue and stuff to do in the space of just 45 or 50 minutes. So maybe just lose one of those possibly would make it a little bit better, but I think that's sort of a take it or leave it a bit more than the fundamental sort of story of a series, which is what really needs to be improved in Series 12. So yeah, we've got 2 episodes overall, we've got 2 episodes left of the series, which I'm still looking forward to. Certainly episode 9, It Takes You Away, sounds very intriguing, a sort of Scandi noir style story, which would be quite enjoyable. And then the really clunkily titled The Battle of Something or Other. I can't even remember the rest of the title, to be honest, because it's so clunky and horrible. But there we go. And then the New Year's Day special as well, which I really don't quite know what it's going to be about or anything, other than a very vague and brief synopsis about a sort of force that's coming to try and from lots of different times or something. I don't even really know. Who knows what's going to be happening in that. So, but it could all be turned around. If they nail the last 3 episodes, it might at least end on a high, in terms of maybe we'll have a cliffhanger at the end of episode 10 leading into the New Year's Day special. Wouldn't that be exciting? Actually, a proper big cliffhanger sort of ending on, yeah, what's going to happen and then leading into New Year's Day, because you can do that for a New Year's Day special where you couldn't for a Christmas special. So I'm optimistic maybe they would do that, but it wouldn't really make sort of a lot of sense in given what they've done so far. It wouldn't sort of, nothing suggested that that's going to happen based on what we've had so far in this series. But I am still optimistic. So yes, guys, do tell me your thoughts down in the comments below on sort of your overall opinions on Series 11, 8 episodes in. What you think of Chris Chibnall as a writer and the sort of style and type of Doctor Who they've gone for this year. Is it to your liking? Would you have liked something else? What are your hopes for Series 12 as well? What do you think about these rumours of Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker possibly leaving at the end of Series 11 or 12? As I've said, personally, I think they will both do 3 series and then we'll both leave, and we'll have another sort of reset with a new head writer and a new Doctor at that point. That probably wouldn't be the greatest thing for the show, with a massive change only 3, 4, 5 years after the previous massive change, but I have a feeling that might be what happens. But do let me know what you think is going to happen down in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching this video, guys. Do remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below as well if you're new here. And it's great to have you on board if you are a brand new subscriber as well. I've been growing recently over the last few weeks and it's great to have anybody new on board. But other than that, guys, I'll see you again very soon for another one. Goodbye. So what do you think's going to happen, Megan Chalmers?
I think we're all going to die.